Cashout is said to be on track for Veve, and that means KYC for every user is going to be coming hopefully in the next few months. So is this overall going to be good for Veve? Is this going to help them continuously move forward? What are some of the market tips you should maybe be looking at right now? We're going to discuss a little bit more about Cashout and whether or not I'm cashing out just a little bit further on in the video. So let's talk about all that. Welcome everyone, my name's Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come watch this video on the channel. Just before we get started, if you are enjoying the content and you want to support me further, you can hit that subscribe button. If you want to support me further than that, you can join the membership. There's obviously been a lot going on when it comes to Veve right now. There's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of moving parts. And I kind of wanted to make this video just to cover some of them, cover maybe what I'm thinking in regards to some of them, how I'm going to handle certain situations, and how I'm looking at the market overall. Because obviously we've talked about this in the last video, and there's been a lot of people talking about it too. The markets just everywhere else aren't looking great at the moment. And it's not to say that Veve is the same. It has been probably going down for the last, 4 or 5 months consistently, and it's not been at its all-time high from that and not even got close to bouncing back to that. Again, that's not just within Veve because that's the case, that's from a lot of other things outside of Veve that's actually causing this to be the case too. But I did want to just talk about it overall, give thoughts just in general on what's going on to give you maybe a better understanding of some of the things that have been happening, and hopefully we can move forward a little bit more educated than we were before. I was actually managed to get the KYC email in the last few days where I'm going to be able to get verified in the next coming days, and there's a lot more people who are getting it consistently each and every day, which is great to see. That just means more and more people are going to be able to cash out, more and more people are going to be able to be verified on the app, and therefore Veve are probably going to have an easier time handling the sort of worse off situations when it comes to the app. If something happens, then they have their identity. It's not to say that that's obviously a good thing for the people who are trying to manipulate it, but when it comes to the safety of the app, the safety of the user base itself, KYC is usually quite a good thing. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who didn't really like the idea of KYC when we initially talked about it. There were a lot of downfalls with the likes of mass adoption happening and how this would actually cause more harm over the long run, but I think the majority of people were quite happy with the adoption of KYC and what it's going to bring. And of course, now people have actually got access to taking their cash out, which again, is fantastic to see. It seems really easy to do. I can do a video on it if that's something you'd like to see once I actually do get the verification and cashing out, just so you can understand that a little bit further. But I do know there are some other YouTubers who have already done it, so if it's something you do want to see, just let me know and I can get that sorted. Flenny actually did a really good video on 3 reasons why he's not cashing out, and there was one point that I really liked about it, and it's something we've talked about before, and it's the credibility that Veve is able to get through cash out being available. Now, I think the most common negative comment that I got within the YouTube of creating any video related to Veve was that it was a rug, you couldn't cash out, it was a terrible app because you couldn't cash out, and all the gems were just, funny money. Now, to be honest, they were right in a sense that it wasn't money you could directly cash out from the app. You could cash it out through escrow, that was possible, but again, it's not really the same as a method that you could use on OpenSea or Immutable X, where you could cash out the ETH and then you could transfer that to fiat and you could take it out to your bank account. It worked a little bit differently on Veve because there wasn't actually a service that allowed your gems to be converted to fiat. But now, obviously, that's different. This is one of the things Flenny was talking about, the credibility further with that. I've had a lot of discussions with friends and with people I've talked to through meeting in the crypto sphere where I've never wanted to get involved in Veve because they couldn't cash out their money. And that makes total sense. If you're putting your investments in somewhere, especially if you're thinking of an investment and not in a sense of a collectible app, then you're wanting to make sure that you can get your money somehow, especially if you're not a risk taker. That is a big risk. For me, when I first initially got into crypto, investing in something that I couldn't take my money out was a big risk. I didn't really have a lot of disposable income. It wasn't like I was some rich person where I could put 150k into it. I started on the app with £300 and I don't think I put any more money in for maybe 9 or 10 months when I initially got into Veve. So everything was just traded to the way that I got it to when I've actually had my portfolio. But I know for a lot of people that might have been different, because if they joined in like the January pump when everything was extremely expensive, then they were still putting money into something that they couldn't take money out of. Or they may have felt like they were being taken advantage of because they couldn't actually have access to their money. Again, we could go back and forth with that about the risks of investing in anything and not doing your research before investing in something like that, but we won't go into that today. The whole crypto scene, when it was booming, was moving so fast. So being an established brand the way that Veve was, licensed with all these people, and not being able to cash out probably put them on the back burner of every single person's mind who was in OpenSea and was making money there, especially the cryptosphere, just purely because, you know, if you couldn't take your money out, what's the point of putting money in? A lot of these people, 95%, 96%, 97%, you're probably up there, or were just in it for the money. They weren't in it for the art, they weren't in it for all that sort of stuff. But you know, there probably are some people who would be in it for the collectibles when it comes to the branded and licensed IPs of the biggest brands in the world. Due to them not being able to take money out at all or use it in any other way, that would probably put them off further. And even if we talk about hedge funds and we talk about established brands and corporations who invest in things like art, again, not having access to that money when they desire or when they choose to do so might put them off to an extent. Now, there has been some rumors recently that a hedge fund has been looking more into Veve, and we've had some talks in the past where there have been, I think, Asian countries that have some companies that are actually looking into Veve itself, but I don't have any sort of solid confirmation on that. So again, that's just stuff I've been hearing on social media and more so relaying that information to you. The main point of this was the credibility that Veve are going to build by doing so. Now that you can take your money out, retail investors can get in just on an easy scale. They do KYC as soon as they get in, and they can then enter into everything else. The amazing thing about KYC is some of the check marks that are available from there. It talks about the MCP, it talks about the market and what you're able to buy and sell and entering into the drops and all that sort of stuff. But the MCP one was the one that caught me a lot because, again, that is going to be a big aspect of Veve itself, and I think it's something that we've discussed a lot of times on this channel. It's something a lot of YouTubers discuss when it comes to Veve. I think that's going to help tenfold when that comes out, to just gamify the app more and bring more people into it, not only with the credibility that you can cash out, but the addition of gamifying an app with the biggest brands, the biggest collectibles, the biggest companies in the world. Sort of coming back to a point what I was talking about when it came to the gems being purchased and the only way to get them out was through escrow. Now the terms of service has actually been updated, and I believe Foster talked about this a little bit more, where you can no longer buy gems, you know, off app. It's now against the terms of service to do. So buying gems at the discounted prices, the way a lot of people were doing for a long time, and it wasn't actually against terms of service. I think it was just do it at your own risk, if I'm not mistaken, is now just completely no, it's a no-go. And that is something that is quite interesting because in a way, this can be a really good thing over the long run, but I think in the short term, some people might not like it because they've been buying gems for so long at a discounted price. Because if you were buying 1,000 gems for $500, now 1,000 gems is going to be $1,000. Could that actually help the market in some way? Maybe. I guess we've got to see it play out over the next coming months to see actually what happens. And again, there's a whole load of other macro things that we don't have control over, determine the way the market's going to move. But I think it's going to be a good thing over the long run for Veve anyway, because that does mean what you're purchasing is actually worth what you're buying into, rather than you buying the gems directly from Veve and then someone else can buy them for half off somewhere else. Andy was actually discussing it a little bit more when it came to gems being purchased and people actually buying into the things they wanted to do. And KYC is only allowing, I think it's 500 gems per week is the maximum they're allowed to do. And if you're thinking of someone who wants to buy Marvel's Comic 1, I believe it's at 20k or something right now, then they're obviously going to have to spend a long time to do that in a legitimate manner from now on with the terms of service being changed. So KYC, again, is going to allow those unlimited purchases to happen. It means they can actually get involved really easily and builds more credibility over time. So there's a lot of other aspects and there's a lot of perspectives to think about. Personally, I do believe it will be a good thing over the long run, but it will be interesting to see if there's any maybe counter arguments to that. How is this going to play out over the long run? But for me, I think it's a good thing. The next thing I'm going to mention is actually from a tweet for people who were saying that Veve were dead, they weren't actually moving forward anymore, there wasn't things happening. We've had these conversations for the last year and a half. You know, it's not to say we've not had these conversations. But there was an interesting tweet by a potential human who actually put out the Pudding Cheeks sort of spreadsheet alongside the total cash that was coming in for IMX itself. Now that is the company that Veve has partnered with. That's hopefully going to be the interoperable area where Veve put a lot, or if not all, of their assets onto, where people can buy and sell with crypto. But we can see here that the Alluvium land is at the top with 148,000, and the top 10 obviously goes down all the way to 14,000. And then if we look at Pudding Cheeks, we can see that the gems purchased over the last week or so with that itself was well over what IMX were able to do with the top 10 of their companies that were involved within IMX. There was actually a comment in the bottom which actually said what you're looking at is the store sales plus fees from the secondary market. If you calculate the real market volume, the daily numbers are more likely 1 to 2 million USD. Of course, more if a big drop happens. Even if that is the case, it's still more than what they have been able to do within the IMX. So I do think that's a really interesting thing to see, and just a general overview of the stats itself. You know, we can talk about things being dead, Omi being dead, and the Veve app being dead and all that sort of stuff for as long as we want, but without solid facts or data and all that. It's usually better to back it up with the actual stats that are there, and I guess we've got them right here. Another thing that happened on Twitter that a lot of people were buzzing about, I was absolutely buzzing about, not gonna lie, until I saw Alex actually responded, crushed all our dreams. But it was Brian who was saying, I was inspecting the network on the Veve web app and noticed 2 feature flags that came back to have me bullish. It looks like Omi to Gem and Gem to Omi features are being worked on by the team. Now, we actually got a response from Alex that said, actually, this is old code, sorry. So I'm guessing this was something that we're working on in the past and is no longer being worked on. Or it could be the other way around, where as of right now, it's not currently being worked on and it's something that will be worked on in the future, but right now there's other priorities taking place. So there could be some things here and there, but as it got quite a lot of traction, there's probably a few of you who just saw it and kind of moved on. I wanted to bring a little bit more light and saw it from the actual team itself responding to what was going on. And moving on to the final 2 parts of the video, I wanted to talk a little bit about just market tips in general for right now. There's a lot of people who are saving, there's a lot of people who are investing, there's a lot of people who are accumulating, there's a lot of people who are cashing out, that sort of stuff. So there's a whole plethora of things that you could be doing right now. For me, I've discussed this, I am accumulating, but I'm still sort of holding back with a lot of things that I'm doing. But for the things that I am doing, I'm making sure to not over leverage, and I think that's the most important thing, especially right now. I'm saving as much cash as I possibly can. My reasonings being surrounding the overall market in general, I do believe we're going to be going into some form of recession in the next few years. I think cash will be quite low for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be scared, and especially when it comes to NFTs, crypto, and then stock markets in general, a lot of these prices tend to shoot down first before anything else. These are the assets that people tend to liquidate first. Especially on the NFT side and the crypto side, these are the places where people will actually look to cash out originally before looking at the other areas. And that's the areas that I want to get involved in. That's the time I want to be investing. So I'm saving the cash at the moment from what I can do. But the places that I am positioning myself in, I've talked about this in previous videos, and I'll hopefully put the card up in the description for you to go and check it out. I think it was last week's video or the week before about what I was doing to be successful during this time. But the one thing that I want to reiterate, and this was something I talked about a lot when it came to not knowing when to buy or sell certain collectibles within Veve, and this was to make sure you have a buy and sell point. Now, people do this all the time when it comes to stocks and crypto. You just have a buy point that you're wanting to put in. I don't know why I can't remember the term that is used when you put a certain price of something and it automatically buys it. This is the same tactic that I usually use for NFTs and crypto stuff in general. If it reaches a certain amount, then I'm going to buy into it. It's like some of the grails that I believe are going to do really well in the future. I wait for certain prices rather than trying to, predict the bottom or predict what's going to happen. If there's a price I'm happy with buying at, I'll buy, and if there's a price I'm happy at selling at, then I will sell. Sleeping Comics done an awesome video about the transition that was going to be happening, and I'd recommend going to watch that as well, because he gives some better insights to maybe what he's looking at, what he's buying at, and how he moves, and he's incredibly smart, so I'd highly recommend going to check that out. And the final topic we're going to cover today is if I'm cashing out or not. Can we absolutely strike Andy down for cashing out if he decides to do so? Well, I will admit that I am going to be cashing out some money from Veve. I put in my initial investment, and that's what I'm going to be taking out, and I'm going to be taking out a little bit more to put into Omi itself. I think Omi has a great potential for the next 4 to 10 years, and it's something that I want to put a little bit more money into. So by taking out my initial investment, which I often tend to do as quickly as possible for anything I invest in, as well as getting a little bit more to put into Omi, then that's the decision that I'm going to make. And again, I want to reiterate the point that for a lot of people, I know they have that sort of weird feeling where if they say they're going to cash out, the mob's going to come and get them for, you don't believe in the company anymore, you don't believe in what they're doing. Absolutely screw what they think. If you're in here for an investment, make sure you're leveraging what you're actually being able to make from the apps like these, from every other place you're investing in. Don't let anyone stop you from choosing what is the right decision for you, as your situation is completely different to someone else's. That's what I'm going to be doing, and I can definitely take you through a video of cash out when that comes, if it's something that you'd like. But I'd love to hear your thoughts overall on what's been happening in the last week in Veve. I know there's a lot going on right now, but I think it's really exciting anyway. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.